Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and with the Battlefield 4 God patch nearly upon us, DICE has decided to brighten our days by giving us a glimpse at the patch notes for said God patch on Battlelog. Of course, there's a lot more changes than could be fitted into one page in the God patch, but some important ones are already quite apparent in the post, and also to anyone who has been playing the CTE in the past few weeks. So, some interesting changes include all the feedback from the community and the CTE, as I said, and some changes are as follows. As we already pretty well knew, because everyone, including me, did a video on this, the fix to the visual recoil for smaller magnification sights and scopes is incoming for all weapons. Basically, if you've been living under a rock the past few months, this fix makes the red dot sight or any reticle on the scope on a smaller magnification scope stationary in the center of the screen, while the scope sight housing sort of bounces up around it like a literal ass. By which I mean a donkey, of course. Why would I mean someone's posterior? Now, I already mentioned it, but the reason DICE LA made the reticle stationary and left the bouncing scope housings is because the animations were hardwired into the game at the start of its assembly and thus couldn't really be changed, or DICE just didn't want them changed maybe. Anyway, it would have taken forever and a half to change them all, and while ridiculously unrealistic, the reticle staying glued, so to speak, to the center of the screen, it makes a bit easier. It's a bit easier on the player than the downright horrific visual kick of the vanilla game as it stands right now. They also changed the player character movement, making it a bit faster and crisper. The transitions are much faster and much more Battlefield 3 like, say, between pressing shift and breaking into a trot. Also, flinching has been nerfed, so the character doesn't spaz around as much when you shoot him. The revive mechanic has seen a much welcome overhaul, with fully charged paddles being added, the sound for the fully charged paddles being added, and the much long awaited triage icon showing a player's remaining life force, so to speak, after he's been shot, and the time you have left to revive him. HUD declutter options have been added, so you can customize the HUD somewhat to make it as cluttered or as uncluttered as you want. What I've noticed playing CTE is the icons go more or less transparent when you ADS to clear up your aiming screen somewhat, which I think is a very good welcome change. Obviously, the Doritos, the spotting triangles now scaled down with distance, and some other things happen like objective icons being highlighted on the minimap, and less than a few hundred of those terrible ammo icons on your screen. Obviously, the so-called netcode has seen quite a few changes. We all know by now about the famous high-frequency 30 Hz updates being implemented and set to default on PC and consoles. A lot of welcome small changes there, like lowering the allowable time difference when damaging other players, which should, help with trading kills and kills behind corners. Also, the high frequency bubble has been added for characters and vehicles, which updates more frequently inside the bubble, and sends updates if anything happens inside that bubble, and so on and so forth. Uh, Also, they have tweaked, according to their understanding at least, some attachments, like the muzzle brake saw its positives and negatives reduced somewhat. The heavy barrel and the laser sight also saw small tweaks. DICE also rebalanced most weapons, the list of changes of course being not out yet, but here's what they tell us so far. The muzzle velocity has been buffed for nearly all suppressed weapons, and slug velocity has also seen a buff. Very, very good changes these, cannot agree more. These suppressed weapons muzzle velocities sucked and were pretty terrible. They also buffed a few weapons' standard muzzle velocities that were, quote, too slow for their intended ranges. As said by me many times before and many others, they nerfed the up-close starting damage of the automatics, whose starting damage was over 24, I believe. So now these weapons require just one more shot, and only one more shot, to kill up close. As Chris from Battle Nonsense showed us, it only affects damages within 10 meters. Now the next change is, well, I don't quite know how to say this, fellow battlefielders, but it honestly brought a tear to my eye. Honestly, when I read this, I let out an audible yelp. Get ready for this and sit down if you need to, because this will knock you on your ass. Okay, ready? All revolvers have finally had a goddamn year into the game's life cycle, have seen all the trigger delay removed. Ura revolvere! Yes! Go revolvers! Also, this is quite an interesting move by DICE, as they've been quite adamant about keeping the revolver trigger delay in the game throughout numerous patches before, despite an almost unanimous community opinion that it should be removed, from the start of the game. And another interesting tidbit that recently I caught was in a small Battlefield Hardline gameplay video. A guy from Visceral said, well, currently we have a bit of a delay in our revolvers at the moment, but no word yet as to whether that's gonna be final. We'll just see what DICE settles on, and we'll go from there. So obviously, while this isn't the final decision, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that maybe Hardline will not feature this ridiculous, even game-breaking mechanic of the revolver trigger delay. Also, not mentioned in this battle log post, but familiar to any player who's ever been in CTE, is the new uniform soldier aiming option. This new option adds several sliders to the option screen in Battlefield 4, with each one determining the side-scrolling speed when ADSing as a percentage of hipfire turn rate. What I mean by that is that different sets of scopes and sights, from small to large magnification, each of those groups will now have be able to set a specific sensitivity when aiming as a percentage of your hipfire turn rate. So let's say you will want to set up your 40 times scopes and the rest of your sniper scopes to 20% sensitivity, to be very precise with small adjustments, while your red dot scopes and sights and such will have, let's say, 80% sensitivity of hipfire turn rate. Another welcome new feature in the CTE is the aiming turn rate that they've tweaked. Will now be changing your mouse sensitivity, so to speak, when turning, so that no matter what scope magnification you have on, you will always take the same distance hand movement to move a certain number of pixels up on your monitor. Now, don't mistake this for meaning that those scopes will now turn the same. No, that's not what it does. It will simply help you with muscle memory somewhat when turning to the side. It won't make the distance between two objects up on the screen the same every time, because every scope's FOV is different. And by the way, these two options are completely unrelated, so this can be on while the other one can be set to off. Also, another small feature added by request was the small countdown timer left to show you how much time is left till your bonus for the points runs out. And also, DICE adjusted some slow rate of fire weapons, and interestingly, carbines and PDWs now have a new bullpup multiplier variable that makes them easier to use as opposed to automatic rifles. They also added a magazine to the weapons that were short a magazine compared to their counterparts, which I assume means the Scar H and the other 7.62 rifles. The seizure-inducing DMR bullet whipping crack sound has been improved finally, and not a year too soon. I'm kidding, they should have done it months ago. I mean, replace the freaking sound file. How hard is that? The SKS and the M39 EMR now don't allow you to hold your breath. And also, the less than stellar changes to grenades have been implemented. Now, the grenade changes I've already talked about in a video a month ago or so. Basically, to combat grenade spam on certain maps. I'm looking at you, Operation Clusterfuck. DICE has put a severe kibosh on grenade resupply time and has lazily and quite badly hacked into the grenade carry capacity with a goddamned axe. Now, I posted my outrage in the other video already as soon as I heard about these planned changes a while back. I didn't win any public support at that time, I remember, because people hate grenade spam as it is. But what I said was, there were other much more interesting creative ways to balance out the grenades. All of them probably taking a lot more thought and effort on the part of DICE, as I'm assuming why they just mindlessly hacked into the grenades and didn't go for them. But one of the methods would have been to create class-specific grenades. For example, lethal grenades only for the assaulter, and non-lethal grenades like smoke and flare and whatnot for all classes. I also mentioned a couple of other balancing ideas I had in that video, so don't be lazy and click on the link in the back of this video if you want to see it. I for one can't wait for the September patch to arrive to the vanilla game and for Battlefield 4 to improve a tiny bit more. Of course, it will never be as polished as Battlefield 3 looks in comparison, but to be honest with you people, it already seems like a bit of a lost cause. Just, cut the freaking dead weight and wait for Battlefield 5 to arrive, or even Hardline if Cops and Robbers interest you somewhat. For me personally, Battlefield 4 will never be fixed enough, and frankly, even a year into its life cycle, every fix promises yet more stability and improvements, while, glaring problems remain. What pisses me off to no end is the extremely sloppy collision boxes, collision models on just about all maps. Situations where you shoot an enemy and blow yourself up because, you know, there's an invisible edge or rock or wall in front of you. Just, bullshit sloppy work and obviously rushed out to the deadline with a tag of won't fix due to time constraints. And now a year later it's all but impossible to revive this dead horse. So we YouTubers keep on beating it. So thanks for watching, please rate and share this video as it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.